In the last episode, we learned about Genya and Sanomi's backstory, and I absolutely love it. Now in this episode, it comes to hit us hard with some amazingly animated scenes and the true power of Hantengu unleashed. If you haven't seen the latest episode of Demon Slayer as yet, spoilers ahead. The following episode, titled Awful Villain, adapted the rest of chapter 115 to 117, showing the power of Hantengu and our Demon Slayers being a little in over their heads. So let's get into breaking down all of that and comparing it to its manga counterpart to see what was adapted and what was transformed into a murderous sixth clone. In the last episode, we didn't animate the final page of manga chapter 115. So this episode starts out exactly there, showing Tanjiro hunting down the demon. Tanjiro activates his Hinokami and heads for the little shit. When he connects with the demon's neck, it would let out a cry. On its tongue would be the kanji for fear. This is where the chapter would end, but where the episode would start, and we would get our title card. Chapter 116 is my favorite chapter of this arc, and it's titled Awful Villain or Pure Evil, depending on which translation you use. It starts out with Tanjiro connecting to the demon's neck, and it screams in pure terror. This ear-shattering scream is nothing to be scoffed at, and it's a warning sign that things are about to go south really quickly. Tanjiro tries to concentrate on slashing the demon's neck, and the sword seems to be getting through, but something is off. Tanjiro now feels an immense presence behind him. This must mean death. We get a really amazing animated scene of Tanjiro saying that this new Sen is different from the other primal emotions. This is where he would also run out of Nezuko's blood, and he's in the crossfire of Genya's shot, so Genya can't take it. And oh, by the way, Genya's head wound seemed to have healed pretty cleanly. I'm just pointing that out. But all in all, it seems that the Senju clan has joined the fight and launches an attack. Right away, we would see some major deviations from the manga. Firstly, we can see that in the manga, the wood dragons seem to be enveloped to look more a bit like the forest around them, with branches filled with leaves and even bending around some of the dragons themselves. While in the anime, it was just bare dragons. The scene, of course, was also animated to be a bit longer of a sequence than what we saw in the manga. And in the anime, it also seems to be elevated a bit higher, showing us a comparison between the dragons and the forest around them. Now, Tanjiro would ride on one of the dragons' back, though this same scene was not shared in the manga. I do believe that some of the audio is missing from this scene, or maybe that's just me, but tell me what you think. When Tanjiro inserts his sword into the dragon's back, there is no sound. Maybe that's just Ufotable playing around. I just thought they missed it overall, but I can move on from that. Nezuko would come in clutch again by saving Tanjiro from this massive attack, but not without sustaining horrific wounds to her leg and arm. When they land, Tanjiro would have to run back to Nezuko, but in the manga, it seems that he landed right beside her. Also, it seems that the scene of Tanjiro examining Nezuko's wounds weren't in the manga. When Tanjiro finally glances up at the demon, it's a totally different one from the other four clones. This one is much younger and has drums on its back, now sporting an amazing look with wood attacks, and if Naruto is anything to go by, these must be some of the most powerful attacks in the meta. This is Hantengu's fifth clone. Technically it's a sixth clone, but I still refer to it as a fifth clone. It's a sixth body, that one can be sure of. And it is the most powerful at all. Nothing but pure hatred. It also has the kanji for hatred on the drums as well. When Tanjiro looks around for the other demons, in the manga you can clearly see a shot of Nezuko on the ground beside him, but in the anime, she was omitted. When he had made a connection with his sword on the fear clone's neck, the anger clone would have raised both hands. Also in the manga, Aizetsu wasn't shot by Genya. In fact, he deflected those shots. Karaku and Yurogi would get grabbed by Sekiru, and then he would absorb their bodies. Then he would make his way to Aizetsu, where he would do the same against the demon's will, which is when he transformed into this childlike demon. We do skip these two panels. The scene of Genya reloading was an anime exclusive, as it always is. The hatred clone beats one of his drums, and this hides away the fear clone. Now the real fight begins. This demon is none like the other. He's strong, and his very aura affects the whole field. Now, when demons are cornered, like humans, they have the ability to pull half-assed techniques out of thin air. I mean evolve. And Hantengu has always been the demon, when pushed into a corner, would evolve to make a huge comeback. This is his latest evolution. This monstrous clone is called Zohakuten, or hatred. This creature is purely delusional, thinking that it's justice and that the demon slayers that have tried to kill it are all evil. And this doesn't sit well with Tanjiro. It pisses him off to no end. The demon would even think that its killing and devouring of hundreds of innocent people were justified. We do skip this panel of Genya. along with the explanation of all of Hantengu's powers. Now I'm pretty sure they won't animate this going forward, so it's not any spoiler, so you can actually see them on screen now. But they do skip these 3 panels. When he shouts that he'll cut the demon's head off, this is where the chapter would end and also the midpoint of the episode. The one thing that I really loved about this episode is that before jumping back into the manga, we do get a purely anime exclusive scene and dialogue. The tension is now higher than ever, and the demon is having a nice little chat with Tanjiro, showing him where the demon's mind is and how it thinks. It thinks it's justice, and you demon slayers are just a disease that needs to be cured. He didn't kill anyone of your family, so why are you even here? Why is it your problem? When he attacks, this is where we jump right back into the events of the manga. Chapter 117, titled Swordsmith, swings back into things with the fight between Muichiro and Gyokko. He's still trapped in the water prison, and everything up to when Muichiro starts talking is also anime exclusive. He tries to do a breathing form to get out, but to no avail. We also skip this panel. Now he's out of breath and fading fast, so much so he starts apologizing to the master for dying. Then an apparition of Tanjiro appears, telling Muichiro that he doesn't know what the future brings, which is very strange because Tanjiro has never said these things to him before. In fact, the truth is that this isn't Tanjiro talking, it's someone very close to him, but that wouldn't be revealed until the end of the episode. In the meantime, Gyokko now puts the hurt on Kanamori. The dialogue between them was also an anime exclusive. In the manga, it wasn't clear what he used to attack Kanamori, but in the anime, we do see that he used water from a pot. And is it me, or does Gyokko seem a little bit larger in the anime than in the manga? He does find Hananeska working on Tanjiro's blade. Gyokko thought that it would be the chief that's in here, since the swordsmith has defended this place to such vigor, tooth and nail. Hananeska has one goal in mind, to sharpen this blade. Gyokko knows that this isn't the chief, so he calls out to Hananeska, but the swordsmith is so deep within his own world that he doesn't even acknowledge the demon. This sends Gyokko into a fit of rage. The demon isn't used to humans, not even paying attention to him, like a small fry little bitch. So he launches an attack. This is where the manga would show us the water pot for the first time, since he entered the shed, of course. He would slice up Hananeska with his water. In the manga, he would actually summon a blade fish, but in the anime, this wasn't done. Oh, we also skipped this panel. Hananeska literally doesn't care, and it was only after a second attack that his mask had fallen off. In the manga, it was only after one attack. We do get an awesome shot, and I think he's the only swordsmith that we've ever seen their face 100%. But again, the swordsmith is so focused on the blade itself that he starts remarking that only one character was placed on the blade and not the name itself, showing him that the blade only has one purpose: to kill demons. Gyokko wants the swordsmith to acknowledge his presence, like many other humans. This sends him into a blind rage, so instead of killing the swordsmith, he wants to punish him. When we switch back to Muichiro, we would skip this panel. Muichiro is still seeing a vision of Tanjiro, telling him only he can decide what his fate is, and that it's not time to despair, despite his air running out. Now, Muichiro starts to be hard on himself, saying that it was because of his own mistakes why he ended up in this position, and no one will be there to save him. Kotetsu then appears out of nowhere, trying to get him out of the water prison. But one thing he didn't notice is that there's a blade fish behind him, and oh my god, what is this thing? Is that a mustache? Wait, what's up with his eyes? I'm losing my mind here. There's so many thoughts going through my head. This fish was done superbly. A few little differences between the CGI fish and the one presented in the manga, which I think Ufotable did an excellent job on this fish. I don't know why, but I marvel at the grace of this thing. It's highly dangerous though. The fish then attacks the poor kid, and this thing will kill him for sure. But right before he should die, he blows some air into the water prison. And I don't know the implications of this, but isn't that carbon dioxide? Should this even work? I'll suspend disbelief for a moment. I think I'm thinking about this way too hard. This gives him the ability to use one more breathing form, which would be 8-layered slash, and it bursts him out of the prison. This is where the chapter would end. The anime would continue by animating the cover page for chapter 118, which I won't add to the list until I see the next episode, because the anime tends to overlap with some of the scenes that it shows in the beginning and in the end. So until next time, that's when I'll count it. Or I'll probably do it now, but hey, you know. A pretty solid episode, maybe not as good as the ones before. I'm not sure, but something really felt off to me on this. Maybe it was because I was expecting a little more. They did animate my favorite chapter after all. By no means whatsoever is this a bad episode. I just think that more could have been done to animate Zohakuten. That's all I'm saying. For me, Muichiro's section was much stronger than on Tanjiro's side, with him facing the new demon. At any rate, let's jump into the numbers. Demon Slayer, the Swordsmith Village episode 7, titled Awful Villain, covered essentially 2 manga chapters. Each chapter having an average of 13 pages, all adding up to 40 pages. Each page would have an average of around 49 panels, all adding up to 148, with 9 of those panels being unique or not adapted, which means only 139 panels were adapted, meaning out of both chapters and 2 pages, 93.92% were covered. Let me know in the comments what you thought about this episode and leave me a like on your way out. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do, it really helps the channel. I've been your host Kyle. Thanks again for joining. Peace out and stay safe out there, V Nation.